Where are those original writings? We know the Jamaat made an excuse about Brahine Ahmadiyya because it wasn't completed, it wasn't finished. They claimed later on that it was burnt without giving any details. But what about 80 odd other books?
Yes. Yeah.
If possible, a devout missionary, because I have not come across up till this time. I have interacted, Adnan Bhai has already, with most of their missionaries. I have not come across a single one of them who I can say that he knows 50% of his work.
Really?
Yes. I asked Razi, I said, Razi, what is the description or definition of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani about what is a miracle?
Did he know?
He did not know this.
He did not know.
Mirza Ghulam Qadiani said, he said that it is absurd that someone is receiving revelation in a language which he does not understand. This is what he said. And then later on he said, I receive revelation in languages which I can understand. Now how to reconcile these two statements? If Jamaat Ahmadiyya is willing to hire me to translate all his work, for example, even if they want to contact me officially tomorrow, I'll start literally from tomorrow. Just give me 1 year. Within 1 year, I will translate all his work in English language with one condition. You have to put on the title that translated by Muhammad Imtiaz. This is my right?
Yes.
And I would not charge anything.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
Fair deal?
That's
Absolutely.
That's yeah.
Yes.
They strongly deny the allegations that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad used really foul language, which we went.
We are facing one problem in terms of interacting with the Ahmadiyya clerics, and the problem is when you present something at a pure academic level, their response is he is lying. Look, you need to deal with the argument. Just you merely saying that he is lying is not a response.
Using the word bastard or a bastard child, do excuse my language please, but as I say, sometimes to clean the mess you have to get your hands dirty.
Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was a magistrate.
A magistrate.
Yes,
Okay.
and being in like a divinely appointed magistrate. Okay. He said that in this capacity he had the right to use this language. But as for us, the non-magistrates are concerned, we can't use that. I was talking to a doctor. He said that he also confirmed. He said that all of my friends around me from the Ahmadiyya movement, they are all practically atheists.
10 million, no problem. 5,000, you don't even have 5,000 people watching your content. The Caliph, his speeches, or your MTA programs, or let's say your global productions, no one is interested because their followers have lost belief.
Now the question is, it means that you are telling for last 100 years to the people that believe in Mirza, you will be saved. Jamba group is one of their own offshoot of Ahmadiyya. It's called Jamba. Abdul Ghaffar Jamba is the name of the founder of this cult. Now he says Mirza was a prophet, he was promised Messiah, he was the Mahdi and reviver. Now our question is, Mirza was saying that believe in me, you will be saved. Now Abdul Ghaffar Jamba and his group, they believe in all of the rest of the Islam, and they believe in Mirza as a prophet, as a savior and everything. You're still saying they are disbelievers, they will burn in hell. The question is, then what is that condition which one has to fulfill in order to be Muslim?
Whew. It's pretty hard criteria by the sounds of things.
Yep.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Everyone, we are back with another dynamic podcast / interview with Declan, who is an author on the Ahmadiyya movement, and Voices of Modern Islam is one of his books. You can check his works out on Amazon, and he's a prolific author. He has been interested in the Ahmadiyya movement. He's a researcher. He's with us again today for the second episode of this podcast. It's a very important podcast, and today the second part is even more important because we have a special guest from Australia. We have our beloved brother Imtiaz, Muhammad Imtiaz, who is a researcher on the Ahmadiyya movement. He has given much of his life to this particular field, and he has been doing long streams since the last year, and you can see some of these streams on his YouTube channel called The Dialogue with Imtiaz, and you'll see that the streams run into hours, 8 hours, 7 hours, the longest he did with myself, 11 hours. So today the interview is basically a follow-up from the last podcast myself and Declan did in the same vicinity. So I hope you will find this interesting. Declan, thank you for joining us again. I'm not going to conduct the interview. You will. I just wanted to introduce it. So let's keep it as conversational as possible.
It's great to be back, and it's great to meet you, Mohammed.
Thank you.
Because I've watched some of your podcasts, and I thought they were absolutely terrific.
Thank you.
And I know that you're a researcher in Ahmadiyya literature, and that's really, really important, and I'm glad that you're here, because today I want to start off talking again about the written works. I'm particularly interested in the written works of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, and I know that in the last podcast we touched upon this, Adnan, but I'd like to talk a little bit more about it today. And the first question is, why isn't the complete works of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, why aren't they translated into English? That has to be the first question, because I need to see them. And obviously other Christians, I'm a Catholic, other Christians need to see the complete works of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. We over the last 18 months, I've listened to the criticisms, and there are many, many criticisms, but I want to read them myself. And my preliminary research tells me that perhaps less than 50% of the works of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad have been published in English. So why less than? Well, where are the other works? Why aren't the complete works? You can go into any library, or you might have it here in your books, Adnan. You get the complete works of William Shakespeare, one volume. Why can't we have the complete works of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad in English in one volume? When you translate them into English, then they can be translated into other languages, other major world languages like Spanish, Arabic, and so on.
Very good question, because Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was supposed to be the Messiah to humanity.
Yes, all humanity, everyone.
And the English language is the most widely spoken language in the world today. It's the lingua franca of the civilized world. Okay, Brother Imtiaz, please answer the question.
First of all, I'm feeling honored sitting in the presence of Declan and Adnan Rashid, an academic and an author. And I want to thank Adnan Rashid bhai, that basically all of this endeavor with Ahmadiyya, it began with Adnan Rashid's encounters in Speaker's Corner with Ibrahim Noonan. Yeah. That's how everything started. Yeah. Then rest is the history. Now, with regard to the question, we are telling this for last 1 year, that whatever Mirza Ghulam Qadiani has written, when you put everything in its totality on any topic, it becomes something indefensible. For example, there are 3 major issues between Muslims and the Ahmadiyya community. One is the prophethood. Is it continued or has it finished? Mm-hmm. Second is, has Jesus died or is he alive in heavens? Mm-hmm. And third is about his second coming. Would it be literally Jesus coming back or somebody else in the likeness of Jesus? Now, in these 3 fundamental issues, if all the writings are put together, the narrative becomes indefensible. So for this reason, they are translating the works selectively to avoid this problem. So now in this past 1 year, the reason that this podcast, the live streams are really painful for this Ahmadiyya movement, because now we are presenting the complete narrative, because both of us, we have our native language as Urdu. Mm-hmm. So we can access the primary source materials, i.e. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani's writings. So when we go through his writings and present the complete narrative on any subject, they have no response. So this is the fundamental reason, i.e. they want to hide the complete narrative of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani on any issue.
And tell me, it just occurred to me when you were saying that, where would the original works of be in the world? It's the originals of all his books. Yeah. Do they still exist?
I would say that if original means that the copies which left the pen of Mirza or subscribed of Mirza,
first edition.
So I don't believe they exist. They must exist, because ever since Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was writing all of that, because they were basically they were the primary text for the Jamaat, so they must have been preserved in theory but in practicality I don't think they exist. And the reason, look, again, this is my own hypothesis, somebody can challenge me on this one, that they have done massive editing in the works of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. Obviously, if I will start giving examples, it will be beyond the scope of this one podcast. But because they have gone through, the books have gone through massive editings, now they have this fear, they had this fear, and most of this work of systematically destroying the works, the original works, happened in the time of the fourth Caliph Mirza Tahir. And the reason is, they had this fear that if one day any historian like Adnan Rashid bhai, if they are able to have access to the actual original works and they compare to what is in the market now, there will be a big problem. I give you simple one example. In one of his writings, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani actually wrote that God has instructed him to cut off the complete ties with the rest of the Muslims. Now this text is so problematic because they are preaching love for all, and Mirza is cutting the ties with the very Muslims. So this was problematic text. So they have done the editing. So in the current versions, this complete word is missing. Bakulli, the Urdu word is bakulli, which means absolute, in totality, totally. So this is the reason that they have done the massive editing, because some of the works were published after Mirza Ghulam Qadiani passed away. So basically what I'm saying, Declan, is that if we mean by originals that the copies which left Mirza's pen,
Yes.
then
The original. Yeah.
then my
First edition.
then my research is they don't exist. And the reason is because they have done the massive editing, and if people have access to those original copies and then they compare with the published one we have right now in our hands, they'll be in big trouble. And if Jamaat claims, for example, that they do have the originals, then I give them an open invitation that then I will prove to you that if you have the originals, they are not going to match with which we have today.
Well, I'd be surprised if they didn't have the originals, because they have some of his clothes, because the current caliph still wears his coat on special occasions.
You know
So
what?
if they've kept his clothes,
Yeah.
I should imagine they would have kept all his writings.
Nah, not really. You know why? Because keeping his clothes is part of the business, because they're gonna basically use those clothes as to uplift the emotions of the cult members, to get more and more donations.
But there is a deeper problem, Declan. This individual had followers while he was alive, and some of those followers were affluent, very influential as well. Some of them, okay, albeit in a small number, but they were there. And they knew by 1902, or they had come to believe that he is a prophet of God. Some of them. And if he's a prophet of God, they surely should have taken care of his writings, which are basically holy. This is God's word on paper. The
And he
originals.
would have handwritten all his...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we have reports that he was busy writing and reading for long hours. He was writing for long hours, because a lot of these books that are attributed to him were actually written by him. And there are other works that are disputed, whether he actually wrote them or not. This is a controversy that will go on forever. The point is, where are those original writings? We know the Jamaat made an excuse about Barahin Ahmadiyya because it wasn't completed. It wasn't finished. They claimed later on that it was burnt, without giving any details. But what about 80 odd other books?
Yes, absolutely. 'cause
Where
he was
are
writing
the
up
manuscripts?
close to the time of his death.
Where are the originals? Where are the manuscripts? So the question is, if the Jamaat has those originals, it should open up the doors for the researchers to come in and actually look into them.
Them on display in the
Exactly.
in the big mosque.
They should have been. I mean, they have the money. The Jamaat has the money. They are building projects, and they are doing a lot of mosque projects around the world, and they are buying buildings to open up the branches. So they have the money.
So would you say, Mohammed, that if you were to guess or to that the originals probably have been destroyed?
That's what my belief is at this stage.
Right. Okay. So if we were to do translations, it would be
It would be based, it would be based on the current, yes.
Revised from the original. Oh dear.
And
But we still, even with the revised, at this stage, I would settle. I would settle for that. His complete works in English.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, as Adnan Bhai hinted already, we can present circumstantial evidence from within the text, internal evidence, that these are not writings of one person.
Yes, no, absolutely. Skilled people can always spot that. It's called feature creep or something. If you and I wrote something together, a skilled editor would know that that's not the continuous voice.
Hence the debate on Shakespeare. Hence the debate on Shakespeare. Scholars are still arguing today that Shakespeare is actually not the author of his works. Because of the high level of learning demonstrated in those works, and because Shakespeare, he never completed his school, so people think that he wasn't actually the author. So this is a very living science.
It's like a literary forensic examination.
Exactly.
And you know, for a layman, I give them simple example, and Adnan Bhai knows this because of being a Urdu native speaker, that we had these two different writing styles in different eras. For example, one is called wo avenge, wo javenge. This is a typical style. He will come or he will go, but the way you say this or the way you draft this thing, the expression. Now the other one later part was wo aayenge, wo jayenge. But the interesting thing is, Mirza is writing if within that same era. How come you have found both of those styles in his writings? Because when we look at the other writers, they are using either one of them. One writer is not using both styles of writing, but within Mirza's writing, number one, we find both styles. Number two, the level of contradictions. It's hard to believe that one person can contradict his speech or statement at this level.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask you, because obviously you're a researcher into Ahmadiyya literature and you've read most of his works or all of his works. What's your verdict?
You know, in terms of, for example, obviously once you're reading any work, okay, the first thing is the literary beauty in that work. It's just coincident. As a Muslim, I'm sitting in a state of ablution, and I can say this under oath. There is zero literary beauty in his writings.
Really?
Zero. It's a painful exercise to read Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. For many reasons. One is, there's no literary beauty. Two is too much unnecessary repetition. If you read 10 pages, you may end up reading one event maybe 5 times.
So it's very
repetitive,
long-winded.
Yes. Okay. And third thing is, I have not come across, and you may have in English, but I don't know, but in Urdu, I have not come across any author. For example, you know, you give a main text and then you give a footnote. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani gives main text, then footnote, then a footnote to explain the footnote. And sometimes this footnote to explain the footnote goes so long, you forget the actual text. So that's not the style of a well-versed author, you know. So I can go on and on, but I can say in a nutshell, it's very difficult to, or I would say that there are two types of people. They can read Mirza Ghulam Qadiani in totality. One is a researcher, because he has to. Secondly, if possible, a devout missionary, because I have not come across up till this time. I have interacted, Adnan Bhai has already, with most of their missionaries. I have not come across a single one of them who I can say that he knows 50% of his work.
Really?
Yes.
I would have thought that those young missionaries, that they would have been...
Razi has claimed that he has read his works.
That it would be compulsory to...
You know, for example, Razi, Ustad mentioned about the Razi. I asked Razi, I said, Razi, what is the description or definition of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani about what is a miracle?
Did he know?
He did not know this.
He did not know.
I repeated my question, and then I had to give him the definition, and then still I said, okay, now can you explain this definition? He wasn't able to. And then he would always say, oh, we are not the... I can understand, and I agree. Nobody can claim, neither can I claim, that I know everything in my memory. I can't claim that. But at least I know the major concepts. Now, what is a miracle is a major concept. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that either a researcher would take the pain of reading his entire work, or a very devout missionary would read his total work, which and no such missionary up till today exists.
Are you aware of his English revelations, Declan? Have you seen them?
No, I haven't.
Okay, he claimed to have received English revelations when Imtiaz Bhai was talking about the painful nature of his writings. They are so absurd and so inconsistent that one is baffled by the sheer substandardness of his writings. He claimed to have received, or claimed to have, received English revelations. For example, one of the revelations was, I love you. Okay? Another one was, I am with you. Then, I shall help you. Then this is where it becomes more confusing. I can what I will do. I can what I will do. Okay? We can what we will do. And he stated about these revelations, I felt at the time from the tone and pronunciation that an Englishman was standing over me and was uttering these phrases. Despite the awe-striking tone, my soul delivered a pleasure from these revelations, which was comforting. So
I definitely have never ever heard that before.
yeah, this is from his writings. This is from Rouhani Khazain. Yes, it's there.
Yeah, just on the same note, Declan, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani said, he said that it is absurd that someone is receiving revelation in a language which he does not understand. This is what he said. And then later on he said, I receive revelation in languages which I can understand. Now, how to reconcile these two statements?
Yeah. So he would say something and then indict himself by those statements he has made himself. So he would say such and such is a crime, but he would commit that crime himself later on somewhere else in his writing. So he was clearly not very aware of his own principles. He writes down principles and then he breaks them repeatedly. And this doesn't happen once. Okay, in those 22 odd volumes of Rouhani Khazain, this is a very common pattern. You will see it. Every single volume is riddled with, filled with riddles. Okay.
And tell me, if you were to get all his works together, because some of them were quite large, some of them were just a couple of pages.
Yeah.
How many thousand words are we talking about? What sort of size of a book if we were to get the complete works of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad? Are we talking about a huge?
Currently, we have 22 volumes.
23.
23.
Rouhani Khazain.
23 volumes.
What sort of word count? How many pages, for example?
It will be, I don't know on the top of my head, but it's hard to put a number, to be honest.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
it will be
Yeah.
possible.
So was he a wordsmith in the sense? Obviously, you said he's very repetitive. So there's a lot of writings
Yeah.
there.
Yes, a lot. I mean, there are 80 odd books.
Yeah.
Approximately 80
How
books.
long would it take a translator to go through to translate all of that into English?
If they have a team
talking-
team of translators working on it, it could be done in 1 year.
Oh, really?
6 months.
Okay.
Depending on, you hire 20 people. Okay. You hire 20 people and give all of these 20 people a volume each.
Yeah.
It can be done in months.
Can I give them an invitation? Okay. I can translate Mirza's work within 1 year if they want to hire me by myself.
Well, that would be brilliant. No, that would be brilliant because obviously,
we have an offer.
We have an offer.
We have a
And
serious
I mean
offer.
it. I mean it.
and I know that you're a highly skilled and you obviously come from an academic background because you need highly skilled translators. You cannot, this. Don't hire amateurs.
Yeah.
Declan, the issue is these are not just words of a common man to the Ahmadiyya Jamaat. These are the words of a prophet.
Yes. I know that
and
from
by that virtue, the words revealed by God.
Yeah.
Why are they so reluctant to translate all his works?
Well, we need to say them because there's 7 billion of us, and he's our promised Messiah for all humanity.
Exactly.
So I need to see these works.
Actually, Declan, somebody might be saying, "Oh, Imtiaz just made this as a joke." No, I mean it. if Jamaat Ahmadiyya is willing to hire me to translate all his work in its
There's
entirety.
obviously some reluctance or there's some difficulty. They obviously do need some help because Mirza Ghulam Ahmad is dead 116, 117 years next year. They have this major publishing house. They still can't give us the complete works in English, the universal language. So they need help.
Yes, I am ready. I'm ready that, for example, even if they want to contact me officially tomorrow, I'll start literally from tomorrow. Just give me 1 year. Within 1 year, I will translate all his work in English language with one condition. You have to put on the title that translated by Muhammad Imtiaz. This is my right?
Yes.
And I would not charge anything.
Wow, okay.
Wow.
Fair deal?
That's
absolutely.
That's
Yes. And now you have basically a point to tell them as, look, I have got Muhammad Imtiaz. And by the way, somebody might say, oh, look, his English is not. No, I will make sure that you can go in the review through somebody. For example, I can give you a sample translation, take it to a well-versed translator. If he approves it, then go for it.
You do a trial.
Oh yes.
Okay.
I'm ready to be trial. Because I really want this to happen.
Well, look, that's... What can you say to an offer like that?
You see? Yeah. Because the reason I said this, Declan, I really want the white man, the English-speaking person, to know what Mirza has written.
Yes, we need
and
to
not
know.
only the white people. We're talking about majority of the Ahmadi and the next generation.
Exactly.
Right?
Those
They
who
don't
can't
speak.
read.
They don't speak Urdu. They don't read Urdu. The majority of the Ahmadiyya youngsters, youth, born and raised in the West, in Canada, in Britain, in the US, they cannot.
Few words here and there.
Exactly.
They won't be able to read it.
Because of the family, because they speak the language at home. But that doesn't mean you can read it.
What about the African converts? Not a chance.
No way.
Not a chance.
No.
Okay. So I'm obviously the Ahmadiyya Jamaat, and this is what I'm going on from obviously some of the responses that they've done to some of the podcasts. They strongly deny the allegations that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad used really foul language, which we went through the last time, or you give me examples about Jesus and Mother Mary. They said that that somebody from a Muslim background like his would never ever use such filthy language. Obviously, you've read these works.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on this type of an allegation saying, a response saying that we strongly, he wouldn't, he could never use that type of language?
Yeah. Actually, Declan, we are facing one problem in terms of interacting with the Ahmadiyya clerics. And the problem is, when you present something at a pure academic level, their response is, he is lying. Look, you need to deal with the argument. Just you merely saying that he is lying is not a response. Secondly, I say, obviously, I speak from a faith context, from a faith background. I say this under oath, that whatever filth and the foul language Mirza has used, especially in particular regarding Prophet Isa alayhi salam or Jesus Christ and his mother Maryam, may Allah be pleased with her. I say this, I said, look, if you have confidence, I am so confident to the level that you take me to a court of law and put a case that this man is claiming that our founder has disrespected these noble figures like Jesus, who is respected by close to 4 billion people on planet, and same is the case with the Maryam. So, and they should make a case that, look, this guy is saying that our founder used this foul language. Then I will present my evidence, because there has to be a third party who has no biases, neither Ahmadi nor with us, and they should see, okay, this is the argument being presented and what is the counter argument. And then one thing I want to add this, Declan, we do have the examples in the history of interacting with the Ahmadis, in which we do have the precedent of having an independent judge. And it did happen, and guess what? When we had independent judge between Muslims and Ahmadis, Muslims won. They won the debate, and people know what I'm referring to. So I would say that instead of us presenting evidence, you just merely say he's denying, he's lying, he's fabricating, he's against the Jamaat. why don't you organize or have
You need
some
clear examples.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, clear
That's it.
response.
And I give one example now, Declan, just to clarify this point. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani said that Quran titles Yahya, John, as Hasuran, which means that someone who has no sexual desire. Okay, but Quran does not title Isa as Hasuran. And then Mirza gives the reason. He said the reason is the drinking issue of Isa alayhi salam and his relationship with the prostitutes. He said these two issues were actually a problem for God to title Isa as somebody Hasuran, i.e. someone with no sexual desires. So now in this case, in this particular case, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is bringing quote unquote evidence from the Quran to prove his point. So there is no way to say, oh, he was giving accusative answer to the Christians. No, he quoted Quran. So this is just one example.
I was looking for a dictionary or like a short dictionary of Mirza's abusive words. I couldn't find it. Someone sent it to me in a PDF format, and it has alphabetical, basically abuses, starting from the Urdu alphabet Alif all the way to Ya. So it's like A to Z of Mirza's abuse in his works. So abuse means words, extreme language, something.
It was pretty vulgar, wasn't it?
Yeah,
What you said last week.
Yeah, using the word bastard or a bastard child. Do excuse my language, please. But as I say, sometimes to clean the mess, you have to get your hands dirty, right? So I'm only using these words because they are actually. Oh yeah, there you go. Okay. So
alphabetical dictionary of his swearing and abusing.
Okay, this is a very short one, right? Okay.
Oh my goodness me!
This is a very short one, by the way. This is the one I have is more extensive. It's a much longer
translation.
Yeah, it needs to translate exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
what I wanted to ask Adnan is, when can this be shut down? When can they accept that he has said these things?
They do accept,
because this goes round and round in circles.
Yeah, Declan, what they do is they do accept, but they put a completely different spin on it. They say the word bastard doesn't actually mean bastard in the true sense of the word. Rather, it means mischievous. It means, it's one of the meanings in the dictionaries. For example, if you go to a dictionary like Johnson's dictionary, you pick up the English dictionary and you see an English word and you have 5 or 6 meanings given, right? It could mean this, it could mean this, it could mean this. There are primary meanings used most commonly, and there are secondary meanings used in certain contexts, right? They ignore the primary meaning and they go to secondary meanings to claim that this is what Mirza Ghulam
all the time.
All the time. When it comes to the abuse, they will not. Mirza used the word bastard child against his opponents repeatedly in different languages. Okay, in Urdu, in Persian, in Arabic, and he used creative expressions to say that. Not only words, he used sentences to insinuate that these people who are my opponents are bastard children. Whether you don't agree with him, whether you reject him, whether you think he lost a debate, for example, when he felt frustrated or angry at people, he simply lashed out at them in this language, calling them bastard children. And the terms he used was harami, haramzada, waldul haram,
Suratul Baghaya.
Dhurriyatul Baghaya. All of these things mean the same thing.
I have actually very interesting answer which was given by Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud on this topic.
What did he say?
He said that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was a magistrate.
A magistrate?
Yes.
Okay.
And being in like a divinely appointed magistrate. Okay. He said that in this capacity he had the right to use this language. But as for us, the non-magistrates are concerned, we can't use that. Now Declan, look, you are an academic, just weigh the worth of this answer, number one. And number two is, when they stopped coming on our live streams, they said, oh, you guys are disrespectful towards our founder, he's a prophet for us, you call him antichrist, etc. I said, hang on a second. are you setting a principle that if somebody has a foul language, this person must not be interacted with? And as soon as I said this, they knew where I'm heading to.
They would.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they said, no. When if you're talking about Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, he did that, all of that in response to Christian missionaries, because they were disrespecting our prophet. I said, okay, let's put a caveat. Are you saying that if somebody has a disrespect towards our prophet, then you can do this in response? No. So they are not giving us any answer.
You just go round,
just going in circle.
round and round.
They're shifting the goalpost.
Yeah. It's very disappointing. It really is very disappointing, because I've known them for a long time, and up until probably 18 months ago, even though probably before that there were maybe one or two red flags, but it's only really 18 months ago that I'm zooming in much more closely on Mirza Ghulam Ahmad and what Muslims are telling me.
Yeah.
Before that, I suppose the ordinary Ahmadiyyas that you meet, they're nice people. They're likable, nice people.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you almost have to distance. You have to compartmentalize them and this.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Because
we differentiate.
Yeah.
Between
because there were times I almost felt guilty. Speaking to yourselves and some others. Yeah. I had an emotional conflict because I knew them. I thought they were really, really nice people. Well, they are nice people, but there's just something not right about this.
Yeah. Actually,
and we couldn't be making this up, Declan. We could not possibly be making this up.
No, because you're highly intelligent men. You have really, really crystal sharp minds and intellect,
and we have integrities to defend. We are well known in the Muslim community, Declan. We can't just sit here publicly, put this content out publicly and lie to people outrightly. People can easily come back and expose us publicly. They can make videos and say, look, we misquoted Mirza, these things are actually not there. And these Qadiani Murabbis, the missionaries, actually attempt to challenge every single thing we put forward, but they fail miserably. They fail because any sensible person listening to them simply cannot make sense of their responses. Their responses are so either out of context or irrelevant or outright red herrings.
But there's no spontaneous debate, because I've watched you, I've watched several others, the podcasts on YouTube. I've watched them, and there's no spontaneous debate. You ask a question, there's a hesitation to answer it. Isn't there? You have to ask the question so many times before you get an answer.
Exactly.
If you know this subject, if you feel so passionate about this man, and you know so much about him, just let it flow.
For example, when we asked him a simple and straight question, Declan, Mirza claimed this. Can you produce the evidence? You will not get a straight answer. They will take you around the world. They'll take you around the world. They will simply not admit that this information does not exist. He simply made it up. For example, when he attributed information to Ibn Kathir, that many truthful companions of Prophet Muhammad apostatized at the incident of Hudaybiyah, right? Ibn Kathir never wrote that. We have his published works all over the world. We have manuscripts of his commentaries and his history. He did not say this. And when you ask the Jamaat, they will play games, they will go around the world, they will simply not admit that this information does not exist. Ibn Kathir did not write this. This is the difficulty we face. We are dealing with disingenuous people. I'm talking about the missionaries. I'm talking about the establishment, not the common Ahmadi. The common Ahmadi had no idea that this stuff exists.
They are the victims.
They are the victims, yes.
Just to add one thing, if you allow me, Declan, because it's very important here. Sometime myself, Adnan, I said, is it that they really don't understand that how apologetics work? For example, now we are asking them that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani just as one example, that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani in 1879, he said that I have written completely documented 300 arguments which are irrefutable to defend Islam, and anyone who will read those arguments will have no choice but to become a Muslim. And then he said, I have written all of that under revelation, through revelation, right? Now, then obviously he did not produce that work. So then he ended up saying for first 1 decade, when people had paid money in advance to Mirza Ghulam Qadiani.
Because he asked for money to publish.
Yeah, he said
stuff.
that give me money, I'll be publishing and sending to your addresses. Okay, he got the money, did not produce the work. For first 1 decade, he kept saying, he said, look, it's a matter of delay. It's gonna happen. I am doing more research. Now the question is, you said initially that I produced
divine.
already. Now you want research, number one. Number two, you said it's a divine revelation. Now you say it's a research. And then he took a third stance. He said in 1905, he said that, look, I was going to publish 300 arguments in 50 volumes. But I am gonna give this 5th volume, and the difference between 50 and 5 is only a dot. So don't worry about that.
Only a 0.
So now these are 3 different stances. So the reply or the refutation of the Ahmadis should be how to reconcile these 3 statements. Instead of doing that, they, as Adnan Bhai said, their first response is, Imtiaz is lying, Adnan is lying, they are anti-Jamaat, they are anti. This is not the refutation.
No. You have to answer
Yeah,
the question.
so you have to reconcile those
3 stances.
categorical statements. In 1879,
Yeah.
this man writes, I have already finished the job.
Yeah.
300 arguments have been penned
Yeah.
and are ready to be published. I
Yeah.
need money.
Yeah.
Money comes, but the work is not coming out.
Yeah.
It's not being published.
Because he hasn't finished his research.
Yeah.
Yes, but the research issue
was never an issue in the
but
first
the
place.
research is already done.
Yeah.
Declan, in 1879, he's saying it's finished. The job is done.
Yeah.
I just need to publish it, right? And it never came out. And later on, when the Jamaat could not produce that work, what was the excuse? Oh, it got burned.
It got burned. Actually,
It got burned.
Yes. And not by just regard to
burned it?
no, this is the point, Declan. With regard to this got burned point, guess what? I mean, somebody has produced unprecedented work, okay, Brahini Ahmadiyya, and his original work is burned. He never said this in his life. It is only once Mirza Ghulam Qadiani passed away and his son Mirza Bashir Ahmad M.A., he realized the problem. So people are going to say the same thing. Where is the work? He said that it was burned and destroyed. But Mirza never said in his life that it was burned. So you need to tell us that if it was burned, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani should be the first person to say this.
He wasn't honest about it, so
Yeah.
Or he should have said it's burnt.
Yeah.
Accidentally, there was some accident.
Yeah.
It got burnt, and we're going to reproduce it because the mind is still alive.
Yeah.
Mirza was still alive.
Yeah.
He could have finished because it's, you see, a prophet of God cannot be a fraudster. He cannot be someone who deceives people. Okay, the greatest possession of a prophet, or the greatest evidence for his truthfulness, is his integrity. Prophet Muhammad was known as the truthful man and the trustworthy man among his people in Mecca. No one could point a finger at him and say, this man deceived us or lied to us at certain point. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani doesn't qualify to be that man, because in the very beginning of his own ministry, his own career, he basically was guilty of fraud. He claimed to have written a book which was completed and finished, and then he couldn't produce it, having received tens of thousands of rupees. Declan.
Yeah.
He became rich with this money.
Yeah.
There was a point, he himself writes, that he didn't know when the next meal is coming and where it's coming from. He wrote this, and then 10 years down the line, he writes that he is already in possession of 10,000 rupees, right?
Yes. Actually, that's very interesting thing. Now, obviously, we are talking to those thinking Ahmadis. When Mirza Ghulam Qadiani had second marriage in 1884, this is exactly the time when he has collected all of those donations to print Brahini Ahmadiyya, which he did not eventually publish, and we have him. We see him having a second marriage, and within that second marriage, his son has mentioned that how affluent he became. Initially, he was saying that I was someone, as Adnan said, that I could not even bring meal on the table, and now he is having a second marriage and living a very rich life.
Privileged life.
No, and
And should a holy man live
Yeah.
such a privileged life? would be my
Well,
question.
if it's earned,
Legitimately,
if that money is earned legitimately, yes, there's nothing wrong in being rich. We're not condemning
No,
you for
but being a holy man.
Yes, I mean,
in a
no,
religious-
You can be. We have prophets who were kings.
Yes.
Okay, Solomon, King David, King Solomon, right? They were kings, so they lived like kings. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Islamically speaking, there's nothing wrong with living a decent, good life, or even a lavish life, let's say, right? But it has to come by legitimate means. Mirza Ghulam al-Qadiani was making money from gullible Muslims and not delivering on his promises.
I've always got the impression that he came from this very rich, privileged background anyway.
There are two things here, Declan. One is, I just want to finish this topic, which then we're coming to this question as well. The point is this: Mirza Ghulam Qadiani said God appointed him and inspired him to produce Brahine Ahmadiyya.
The first, yeah.
Okay, now the question is, if it was burned, I'm sure that God knew it's going to be burned. Why would God inspire someone to produce something which was not going to be published and was going to be burned in future? Now, either God does not know the future, or it wasn't God inspiring Mirza Ghulam. Which one of these two? Now, secondly, I agree with Adnan Bhai in principle that through legitimate means you can live a good life. There's no problem. But guess what? Mirza said, I am second coming of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And we know from the biography of Prophet ﷺ, he said that his wife said that the 2 months would pass and we could not have a meal, we could not burn the fire. This was the level of poverty he had at his home. Now, if you are second coming of this prophet, then how come you living this lavish life? And lastly, why this issue? Obviously, people can say, why they are discussing too much about one book by Ahmadiyya? No, you need to understand. This is how Mirza Ghulam Qadiani came on the scene. Brahine Ahmadiyya, that is the first work which Mirza Ghulam Qadiani used as his publicity. He said, I'm going to produce this work and that will be irrefutable. Now, if
this is magnum opus.
Now the question is, if it is proven with overwhelming evidence it was a fraud, which means that right in the beginning we have a fraud.
So his ministry starts with a fraud,
Yes.
with a lie, with deception.
Yeah.
And
What about his life? Because I was going to ask you, there's always this controversy about the year that he was born. Do you know, have you delved into that a
Oh
little
my
bit?
goodness.
I would like to request that
yes.
we keep our answers as short as possible, so that we can get as many questions as possible.
Agree.
Yeah. Okay. But continue, please.
Actually, Declan, first of all, people need to understand the context, that why the age or the lifespan of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is crucial. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani said that God has decided that he wants to give a sign to the future generations so they can verify the truthfulness of my claims. And then he said that in order to give that sign, this is the sign God has decided to give me. They said that God has told me that my lifespan would be 80 years or close to it. Now, this is the significance, because if we miss this perspective, then whole thing is just blurry. So this is the actual perspective. This is how the thing started. Now, the question is, their entire response is revolving around one thing, and that is, back in the days, it was not customary to document the birthdays. Hang on a second, that's not the question. God was going to give the sign, and God knew very well that in order for people to verify this sign, they need two things: date of birth, date of death. Date of death, no problem. Everybody will know that eventually. Date of birth was one single piece of information which God must provide.
Yeah.
If God was going to give the sign, then it is God's responsibility to provide the information, i.e. the date of birth.
Otherwise,
what's the point?
Sign?
How is
Where's
that
the sign?
sign?
What sign?
So basically, this, Declan, now this is again the academic thinking. If this is the context, then their official response, as they gave to you as well, that back in the days it was not customary. No, it was not customary to document the date of birth. No, but that's not the question. It was God to give the sign, and God, I guess that God knew his date of birth. I guess, okay. Now the next thing is, Declan, that when they are trying to cover up this whole thing, I want to ask them a question. How come that up until 1908 there was no controversy on Mirza's date of birth? Lahori Jamaat, Qadiani Jamaat, first Caliph Hakim Nuruddin, Mirza himself, all of them unanimously said 1839 or 1840.
Wow.
Unanimously said.
Okay.
And Mirza himself
Yes,
on oath.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
that's very important to mention him.
Mirza Ghulam Qadiani appeared in the court of Gurdaspur in 1900 or 1901, one of these two. And he said under oath, he said, I am close to 60. When? In 1901 or 1900, one of these two. We know for sure he died at 1908. So if you do the math, he's 69, number one. Number two, when they are coming up with their number of 1835, they are being unacademic. Why? Because the parameters they are using other people. Mufti Sadiq, one of the disciples of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, he says that Mirza told me, we have no evidence by the way, he said Mirza told me he was born in such and such month of the Indian calendar. Now the question is, how come that you want to depend on Mufti Sadiq, a secondary person, and leaving Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, his son and his caliph? And secondly, how come? That's the main key point now. Because the whole context is quote unquote divine. God is giving the sign, right? If Mirza Ghulam, now they say that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was mistaken when he was telling his date of birth. Hang on a second. You are still have no response. Why? Mirza Ghulam Qadiani said a prophet cannot die on a mistake. If Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was making a mistake by telling his date of birth, it was God's responsibility to correct him.
Because it's a sign.
It's a sign.
You see why this is a big deal, Declan? Do you understand?
Yeah, no,
why the Jamaat does so much gymnastics about the age of Mirza Ghulam Qadiani? What's the big deal? Who cares whether he was 60, 70 or 80? Who cares? The reason why Qadiani Jamaat does so much gymnastics is because Mirza himself made his age, the number, to be a sign from God.
Yes.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be a problem.
Therefore, you have to doctor with the years.
So the number becomes very important.
Yeah.
That's why there is so much discussion in the literature as to when he was born. According to Mirza's own testimonies, he stated that he was born in the last
year. That's the one you have to go with.
Yes, because he's the prophet. He tells you when he was born. And they ignore that. The entire Jamaat ignore Mirza's own testimonies and create another date of birth to fit him into that.
Well, they're very disrespectful to the promised Messiah.
Absolutely.
Actually, you know, Declan, just to add two last things, because I would say that through this podcast, this should be documented in the history that why this question matters, the date of birth thing. Now, the cover they are using is that God never said it would be 80, it would be close to 80. Guess what? Bring a single statement, because Mirza was telling his age close to as well. For example, he says in 1901 under oath, I am close to 60. In 1907, in his book Haqiqatul Wahi, 1907, he said, I am close to 70. Did he ever say I'm close to 80? That's the question. It was going to be close to 80. Okay. The second thing is when he said that I am close to 70, there's a possibility it could be bit over 70 or bit less 70. Guess what?
He close to 70.
No, he closed that door.
68 and a half, 69,
actually,
isn't it?
Actually, he's
69. Probably would be.
Or 71, 72, 73.
That's the thing. He closed that door. When he said that I am close to 70, in the same book he said 69. And he died over 1 year afterwards.
1907 he's saying this.
1907.
That I'm 69. And he dies in 1908.
Yes.
And you've read all that?
Oh yes. Haqiqatul Wahi. Basically there are two things.
One of his final books.
Yes. There is 5.
This will be in the translation.
It is available.
Okay. Now
there are two things, Declan. One is in 1907, Mirza says I am close to 70, number one.
Yeah.
Then close to 70 could open the possibilities. He closed there. He said I am 69. Then he died after 1 year. Do the math. It's never close to 80. So now that's the case closed now. The checkmate thing is, Declan, Mirza says that the future generation will know the truthfulness of my claim through my lifespan.
But what will they come back and say on that, Adnan? They'll have a response to that. They won't just take this lying down.
Oh,
They'll
they
say
have a response to everything. They have a
So what
Declan,
likely response will they have to?
we have had an entire stream that
Two
runs
streams.
into hours.
Yes.
And they had the chance to come and defend their position, and they couldn't. The maths simply doesn't work.
No.
So how did they justify that?
Mirza was mistaken about his age.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
The Prophet was mistaken
If
about
he was mistaken about his age, he might
Yeah.
be mistaken about a lot of other things.
But
Yes.
there's
Yes.
another catastrophe for them. Even by their own calculations, the numbers don't match.
Yeah.
So even after they've done their calculations, the numbers don't match.
Okay.
They still couldn't make him
What's
80.
their explanation for that?
Actually, you know, Declan, if you want me to tell you that
It's just a charade, isn't
Yeah.
it?
It is.
Yeah, absolutely.
they have three responses. One which they gave to you, that back in the days in India, it was not customary to document the date of birth.
But the way they've worked it out,
No, but Mirza, if you look at
1835.
Mirza's own statements,
Yeah.
Mirza said, I was born in the last year of
Sikh
Maharaja,
Raj.
Maharaja Ranjit Singh.
Yeah.
Maharaja Ranjit Singh died in 1839, not Sikh Raj, Maharaja Ranjit Singh. Okay, is that can we check that, because he said Maharaja Ranjit Singh, if I remember correctly.
He said सिखों के आखिरी दौर में.
No, Akhri Dor can mean anything.
Yeah.
Because
I
Akhri
agree.
Dor starts from 1839 all the way
but-
up to 1849.
the two things. There are two things.
Yeah.
He had two statements. One is that in the last period of the Sikhs, and then he said 1839, 1840.
1830.
He gave two things.
What he means by the last year of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. Okay, Maharaja Ranjit Singh died in 1839. By all history accounts, he died in 1839. Okay, and this is how people would remember important births or their own birth, that such and such child was born when that happened or when this happened, for example. Okay, and Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani writes himself that, and let's say if it's the last days of the Sikh rule, it can never be 1835 because the last days of the Sikh rule started after 1839.
Yes.
So his date of birth has to be after 1839, not before 1839, because up to 1839, the Sikh rule in the Punjab was the most powerful entity in the region, and there was no question about the power of the Sikh rule, and whether no one could imagine that within the next 7 to 8 years this rule will be completely dismantled and the Punjab region will be annexed by the British so easily, because Maharaja Ranjit Singh had created a very powerful empire, okay, in the Punjab region. So whether Mirza meant it was the last year of Maharaja Ranjit Singh or the last years of the Sikh rule, in both cases it must be 1839 onwards, not backwards. It cannot possibly be 1835 by any account or by any calculation. Okay, 1835 year doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
The last statement, Declan, I would make on this age thing, that Ahmadis, those who are sincere to the truth, they need to ask the Jamaat two questions on this topic. Question 1: did God say to Mirza Ghulam Qadiani that I am going to make your lifespan a sign for the future people to know your truth? If the answer is yes, then the second necessary thing is, then God must tell his date of birth.
Otherwise, what sign?
What's the point then?
I mean, I'm going to make something a sign for you, but then I'm going to make it blurry.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it,
Very blurry.
I'm going to make it so vague.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it so questionable, so unestablished, so uncertain that it loses its meaning. What sign? If I tell you there is a signboard, if you want to go to the Heathrow airport, let's say, and there's a signboard, but then the signboard is telling you go right, and then it's a go left. The same signboard is telling you right and left, and you're standing there confused, right or left. It doesn't explain. So God is telling you
He's been
right and left.
very mischievous.
Oh yeah. So this is a mess. It's an absolute mess.
Yeah.
And the reason why we are doing this campaign, Declan, is to save the common, gullible, decent Ahmadis who have given their lives to this cult, and they are giving their money to this cult. Okay, for
But
what
I
end?
think it's too late for I think anybody over the age of 40, it's probably too late.
I wouldn't say so. I think
know.
there are people. I mean, we have people, Declan, who are beyond the age of 40, and they're coming back.
Oh yes.
They
Are
are
they?
coming. Yes,
Okay.
100%.
It's,
Yes.
The reason that I say that is that they are so devoted.
Yes.
They're so devoted
The
to
elderly,
religion.
I must, over 60, 70, those people. But even then,
But I don't I'm kind of looking at why are they so devoted if they haven't read his works and if they haven't done their own
It's the culture.
research,
It's the
their
culture.
own analysis.
Yeah.
It's the you see, when you are raised as an Ahmadi child or as a Qadiani
course,
child,
yeah. In
you
any
you see
culture, any
Mirza
religion,
Ghulam
yeah.
Ahmad Qadiani with a halo around his head.
Yeah.
He's shown to be a divine personality.
hard
They
to
are
give
not
up.
shown these contradictions. They're not shown these problems. And
But
when
they are now.
yes, they are being
They are now,
exposed
they
to
are
it.
now.
They are being exposed to this. And now the kids, the youngsters are asking questions. Declan, they sent out a bulletin to their private WhatsApp chats that we received from one of the insiders, and it states categorically, block Muhammad Imtiaz and Adnan Rashid from the devices of your children, just like you block pornography. Do not let them watch their content. Do not let them watch their content. We have the bulletin.
When was that sent out?
This was how many months?
Nearly 3 months ago.
3 months ago.
I put it up on my Twitter.
Yes, on
I
Twitter.
actually put the screenshot on
They
my
never
Twitter.
challenged that bulletin.
They never said this is not true because it came from the inside.
Yes.
And we have people, Declan, in the Jamaat who are Muslims. They are not Ahmadis. They have accepted Islam, okay, and they remain inside so that they can help people inside.
Undercover.
Undercover.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they run into many,
Yeah.
not few individuals. They are everywhere, almost in every single major country where they have major operations, and they are inside, including the house of the Caliph.
Yeah.
I'm saying it publicly. I'm announcing it. We're not going to say the names.
Yeah.
We're not going to tell you who they are. I have personally met people who have direct contact with the Caliph. They are Muslims.
Yeah.
They are Muslims. They have accepted Islam. With myself, they repeated the Shahada. When we say the Shahada, that means making the declaration of Islam again to enter Islam again from the Qadiani religion. So they left the Qadiani religion, and we requested stay in and help more people to come out, because this is a money making scheme that's conning people.
You know, Declan, with this question of devotion, obviously I won't mention any, but you coming from a Christian tradition, okay, you know there are cults of okay,
Yeah.
and if you see or if you study any cult,
There's common denominations.
yes, okay, those cults are always very devoted. Why they are, we can discuss the reasons, but this is a common trait in cults: devotion.
Blind devotion.
Yes.
Blind devotion
Yeah.
that is inherited from ancestors.
Yeah.
And sometimes people die in this blindness. We have so many examples around the world why people end up following erroneous ideas and religions.
Yeah, because devotion itself is not in question. The in question subject is a devotion that even you are confronted with the facing the evidence contrary to that, you say, no, I don't want to see that. This kind of devotion which has no evidence based.
Yeah. It's not looked at, it's not studied, it's not analysed,
Exactly.
it's just
Yeah.
Yes.
anti-Ahmadiyya, go away.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
You
it.
see, in Islam, Declan, we are encouraged to contemplate,
Yeah.
to question.
And that's why I think about the younger generation, you
Yeah,
know, because obviously the younger generation are very well educated, they've been to university, they've degrees, they're professional careers. That's one thing, you know, that's academia.
Yeah.
But what about their own personal research? They've moved away from home, from their parents.
Yeah.
They're out into the big, bold world. They'll meet lots of Muslims,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
mainstream Muslims. They must, they must do their own analytical.
And they are. This is why the Jamaat invited us. Actually, not invited us. The Jamaat was forced
To invite us.
allow us on their biggest channel.
MTA.
MTA
Oh, yes,
is
yeah,
their
yeah.
official international channel.
Oh, were you both on that?
We were
Yes,
both
they-
on
Oh,
that
you
channel.
both on that, okay.
Yeah, we
They
had,
indirectly gave us a message by putting a post on Twitter and on YouTube. They said, look, you anti-Ahmadis are asking questions here and there. Don't worry about that. We're gonna start a program every Friday, 8 p.m. Come and join us and ask any of your questions. I said, oh, that's a good opportunity. So myself, Adnan bhai, we joined the live stream, and I said, you said this thing in your public announcement that you want to have a dialogue. He said, you never said that. Who told you? Who never said that?
It's a Q&A. Ask your question and listen to our monologues. And then we did. We were fine with that.
Yeah.
We said, okay, no problem. You don't want to have a debate? You announced on Twitter,
Yeah.
the word they used was mubahitha
Yeah.
in the Urdu language, which means a dialogue.
Argumentation.
Argumentation,
Yeah.
which literally actually means a debate.
Yeah.
So we went and Asif was there.
Asif Basit.
Asif Basit, the person you
Okay,
interviewed,
yeah.
he was there. You should watch that episode. It's very interesting, by the way.
well, I'll
It's in Urdu, right?
Yes.
It's in Urdu. Unfortunately, it's in Urdu.
Oh.
But
You see, you get deprived.
but he was there. He was the
Why
main.
didn't you do it in English?
A good question.
Yes.
And they themselves avoided the English discussion because they wanted to discuss it for the Urdu audience. And then we posed questions because they said no debate, just questions. So we posed questions. And when we posed questions.
How long was this podcast? An hour,
this
2 hours?
Bit over 1 hour.
Was it live
but
or recorded?
we were only allowed to speak for what? 5 minutes each?
It was live.
Oh, it was live.
But as soon as we tried to say something, they would mute our mics and remove us from the screen.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Zoom. It was on a Zoom meeting. Yeah. Yeah.
Now
And then-
basically, a couple of times what happened is,
Pretty pointless.
I thought maybe I am being heard by the audience, but I was told through message by other people, you are not on the screen, man. Just stop.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, the questions we posed were so devastating for them that they
Give me an
actually,
example of the questions you might have.
for example, the topic they chose, and they thought they will do well on that topic. The topic they chose: who was the last prophet, Muhammad or Jesus? Who was the last prophet? But by Jesus they mean Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani, by the way.
Oh, right, I was going to say,
Okay,
I would have been able to answer that. Okay,
yeah, but that's the
Yeah.
assumption.
Yeah,
Okay,
Right.
The assumption is that Jesus, or actually the claim is that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani is the second coming of Jesus Christ, right?
Right.
So by posing this question, they're being very clever, and they're trying to raise confusion. So our question was, when we were allowed to speak, our question was, first you tell us and determine who was Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani. Was he Muhammad or Jesus Christ? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Okay? Because Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani claimed to be both personalities. He claimed categorically that he is Muhammad Rasulullah. He claimed categorically, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he claimed categorically that he is Isa alayhi salam, or Jesus, the son of Mary.
Second coming of Jesus.
Second coming. So we asked them, before you pose this question to us, you need to clarify, who is Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani? Is he Muhammad or is he Jesus? Then we can address the question.
Yes.
And they were rattled by that. They were completely blown away by that question. And they went on trying to explain. And then the next week they did another program, a follow-up program. On Friday, we both appeared.
Yeah.
We both went.
Yeah.
They kept us waiting for 1 hour, did not allow us to go in, and had long monologues addressing the same question.
And then finished the live stream. Never took us at all.
Didn't even acknowledge us. Okay, and we had already announced on Twitter
Yeah.
that we are watching live, we are in the backstage,
Yeah.
and we are waiting to be taken on. And they didn't care.
Yeah.
They didn't, but so they
Oh, actually, yeah, I'm quite shocked by this. Yeah.
we were also surprised. We were shocked by the fact that they allowed us.
Because you're two high-profile people, too high
to ignore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very insulting. But also, since these debates have started, Adnan and Muhammad, they've always said to me throughout all the time that I've known them, Sunni Muslims, they don't want to talk to us, they don't want to engage with us. Well, they haven't that excuse anymore, have
No,
they?
they don't. Absolutely not.
But the way
because
they're treating you guys, and debates should be taking place every week. You should be on
Yes.
the television channel
Yes.
every week. You should have a weekly slot.
Actually, guess what, Declan? We made a statement. I said that, let me give you this invitation. Have just 5 live streams on your official channel. Let me see that if Jamaat remains intact. and let's see that how many of your members would still choose to stay part of this cult. Just 5 live streams. Instead of, okay, you are so confident, come let's have 5 live streams. No, they said that, oh, you guys have always been saying this, Jamaat will always remain. Look, I'm asking you, I'm giving you a simple invitation, then let it happen. And you know, Declan, here's the thing, as Adnan mentioned before, on every single topic, they have a prepaid script, prepaid in advance. So now the reason they are finding it hard to deal with us, our questions are not within the script.
Of course, yeah, yeah.
So in the last 100 years,
It should be live, shouldn't it, as well?
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And
Because-
sometimes they are
Yeah.
taken by a shock.
Yeah, because they have done a massive work in the last 100 years, their teams, and they have come up with a script for every topic.
Pocketbook.
They call it pocketbook.
Guide.
But the moment you bring something which is
go off
not in the script,
Yeah.
they are
They're in
baffled,
trouble.
finished.
Yeah.
And you said this thing about the young generation. It's a very important thing. Now again, I'm telling you, Declan, after talking to, for example, in this my recent trip in UK, Adnan Bhai knows this. When I went to Birmingham, I had a special session with the Ahmadi youth who has recently left the cult. And then yesterday I had a special session in London with the Ahmadi youth who has left the cult. They have unanimously told me one thing. They said that, Imtiaz, let me tell you one thing. Majority of Ahmadi youth are atheist for all practical purposes.
They're not even believers.
Atheist.
Well, can you expand on this a little
Yeah,
bit, please?
this, for example, they would say that obviously, even though we both have 2 different traditions, Christian tradition and Muslim tradition, but we both have one thing in common. We believe in miracles, right? Now, the problem, or you can say the fundamental issue between faith and atheism is believing in something beyond natural
The supernatural.
phenomena. The supernatural, right?
Yeah.
Guess what? Even though Mirza Ghulam Qadiani has written extensively on this thing, and Mirza Ghulam Qadiani himself does not believe in supernatural. That's an interesting thing. A prophet of God.
He was a naturalist.
He was a naturalist. Secondly, today's Ahmadi youth, majority of them, exceptions are always there, but majority of them, they are also on the same track. They are naturalist. Anything that cannot be explained through naturalistic explanation, they reject it. Which means that from a purely Islamic point of view, they are not Muslims.
No.
Right? So this
They
is what
wouldn't even be Christians.
Yeah. No, they are people
Because
of,
Christians believe in miracles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ
Yeah.
has he committed miracles
Yeah.
as per the New Testament.
Yeah.
Likewise, the Quran.
Yeah.
The Quran tells us Jesus Christ did magnificent miracles.
Yeah.
So did Moses.
Yeah.
So did Prophet Muhammad.
Exactly.
Okay. So all these prophets were known as prophets because they were not ordinary people. They had supernatural powers.
Yes.
Okay. So they completely reject these miracles, as we discussed in the last podcast, that even the miracles of Jesus Christ that are categorically stated in the Quran, Mirza calls them mesmerism, trickery.
And you know, Adnan Bhai,
Yeah.
because your question was that what I mean by the majority of the Ahmadi youth is basically atheist for all practical purposes, then the question is then in which sense they are still quote unquote Ahmadis or Muslims, for example. In this sense, for example, for their social gatherings, you know, they are part of the Jamaat. They are in the list as a statistics in Jamaat's list in the computers. They would gather together on the social events, etc. But if faith means to believe in what Allah and His Messenger have told us, then they are not Muslims or atheists, or they are not Muslims, even Ahmadi Muslims.
Even by
Majority.
Ahmadi standards.
Yes.
They don't follow
Yes.
the religion.
Yeah, I'm using their terms, Ahmadi Muslim. They're not.
And they are in large numbers.
Yes.
They are in,
They are
they
the
are in big
majority.
numbers.
And you know that for a fact.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Most Ahmadis, youngsters, the youth, the next generation, or the upcoming generation is agnostic or atheist.
The ones that have left school and
Yeah.
gone on
Yeah.
to college
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm telling you this, for example, I was talking to a doctor. He said that he also confirmed, he said that all of my friends around me from the Ahmadiyya movement, they are all practically atheists, all without exception.
But let's return to the numbers. How, again, there's the huge controversy about the numbers. Is it 10 to 12 million? Is it 15 million? Is it 40 million? Or is it 1 million? Because again, insiders.
To be honest with you, Declan, they have
1 million.
they have certain countries where they have some concentration in certain areas, okay, and they don't amount to that number. 10 million is out of the question, in my opinion. But even if they have 10 million, let's say, even if they have 10 million, what value do they have as followers? For example, I give you an example to judge the value of followers if they are not active followers, if they're not even listening to you. You go to their biggest YouTube channels, okay? You go to their biggest YouTube channels, okay, with the highest number of subscribers, and when you watch the videos, okay, they have 200, 300, maybe 1,000 views at a time, right? Okay, you see any common Muslim YouTuber who is producing religious content and is eloquent and is able to present the evidence in a very articulate way. You will see that they will have tens of thousands of views. I'll give you one example. Mufti Menk, one of the Muslim figures who is very famous and internationally renowned Islamic figure, he has millions of followers on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, all social media accounts, and his videos easily get, within an hour or 2 hours, hundreds of thousands of views, right? Okay, they can come back and say, oh, you have higher numbers. But we say proportionally, let's speak proportionally. You have 10 million followers. At least 10,000 of them should be observant. At least 5,000, let's say, should be watching you.
Absolutely.
Okay, 10 million, no problem. 5,000, you don't even have 5,000 people watching your content. The Caliph, his speeches, or your MTA programs, or let's say your global productions, no one is interested because their followers have lost belief. They don't actually have proper religiosity.
They don't, but the numbers, as we all are guessing, they're hugely exaggerated.
Actually,
Yes.
we can actually give evidence that they are lying about their numbers. Simple piece of evidence which is verifiable. Mirza Tahir said in around 2001, he made a statement. He said that in 1 year, just in India,
I read this, yes.
just in India, we have 40 million new converts, which means that number should be more than 40.
I only read that the other day, and he got very angry when he was challenged on it.
Now the question is, if there are 40 million just new converts, let's say actual number was 50 million, okay?
Yeah.
And now you're saying 10 to 15. So what happened to the rest of 35 million? Number one. And number two is that, is it that difficult for organized, I would call it, you can disagree, cult?
Well, insiders say that you've got to pay a membership fee.
Yes. Basically,
so the Caliph's office should know.
In terms of their system, Declan, they have complete record of their members in each and every town and city. Okay,
a breakdown.
And it is just a matter of maybe 10 minutes for the Caliph from his office to issue a public statement that this is our total number and this is the breakdown of that number. The reason they are not doing that, and even guess what, they were asked this question in the National Assembly of Pakistan in 1974, and the Caliph said, I don't know what's the number. So now whoever you ask, they deny we don't know what's the number. But on the other hand, those people who left the cult, they are telling us that every member is given a unique ID number, and it's not difficult. So the reason they are not telling us the number, Declan, very simple. Whatever number they're gonna state, two things will happen. What Mirza Tahir was saying will be officially disproved.
The 40 million.
40 million,
yeah.
Number one. And number two, people will get at least some official number, and then people can verify that, and they'll be in trouble that you are lying. So that's why.
Well, they'll come back to you and they'll say, well, I'm imagining this. They'll say, well, no, he didn't say 40 million. You're taking that out of context. He was talking in a metaphorical sense. He he was saying that maybe one day that the world will see 40 million in 1 year, and you were thinking he said 40 million. No.
Just two things on this, Adnan, right? One is if words are metaphorical, if numbers are metaphorical, how is it possible for a human being to know anything about them?
Exactly. Absolutely.
I agree with you. What isn't metaphorical?
Yes, absolutely.
It's I think it's an excuse.
This is the official YouTube channel from the UK, True Islam UK. This is the official Ahmadiyya Jamaat YouTube channel. It has only 7,000 subscribers. If you watch their video record, okay, you will see every video they have a Sunni Muslim figure depicted on the thumbnail. They get 5,000, 6,000, 4,000 views. Every time they are speaking to the audience on their own, they are getting what? 351, okay, 656, right? And the most watched video in the entire history of this official YouTube channel of the Ahmadi Jamaat is the interaction myself and 5 of the Murabbis had. 132,000 views. That is the most watched video on their entire channel.
Who did you do that with?
There were 5 of them.
Oh, I think I've seen.
They went live. They went live.
Yeah.
I was in Tanzania at the time in Africa, sleeping in my bed. They went live without warning, and they started taunting me live. Where are you, Adnan Rashid? You coward! You're running away from us. We are sitting here to debate you. Where are you? Where are you? So I was called and tipped off, and then I was told, are you a coward? I was asked, are you a coward? So I'm not a coward. What do you mean? They are calling you, they're taunting you on live, and five of the Murabbis, 2 Arabs and 3 Pakistanis, they are sitting there and they're calling upon you. Where are you? So I quickly washed my face and turned on my phone, and I could see them there. So I went live from Tanzania, and the rest is history. You can watch. You can go and watch, right? 5 of them against 1, right? And this is the only video on the channel which crossed 100,000, right? Because I'm not saying it's because of me. I'm saying this is the level of disinterest.
It's no coincidence, is it?
Yeah. So their audience is not interested in what they have to say. Their own imams and missionaries and murabbis are not even taken seriously by their own followers. If they were, Declan, they would be, if not, let's say, if not hundreds of thousands, they would have thousands of views on their videos. Of course they would, But they're not. There are 10 million people.
Yeah.
Where are they?
Or 40
Where
million,
are they?
15 million, whatever.
Yeah. So it's a lie.
There's definitely
something fishy.
Massive there's a massive contradiction, and it's not something that they could easily fix. But anyway, can I just ask you, because you've just reminded me there about young missionaries and young imams. They go to college for 7 years. How much do you think that they know about Mirza Ghulam Ahmad? Do you think that they would have read all 84 books? Or?
First of all,
how well read are they?
First of all, the irony is, in any Islamic or Muslim seminary, there is a set syllabus, regardless of which denomination you go to. They study some standard books in terms of Quranic exegetical works, Ahmadis, etc. We recently interviewed an ex-missionary who left the cult. We interviewed him on our platform. He said that, no, I have not read that syllabus, number 1. So that is first thing, that they do not read that standard literature of Islam.
This is basic.
Very basic. Yeah. After that, whatever they read is, Declan, it's only revolving around one agenda, that we have to defend Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. So let's roam around the entire Islamic literature, try to find something. That's all they learn for their 7 years. And in terms of knowing Mirza Ghulam Qadiani, not me, that ex-missionary said, he said that what I learned about Mirza Ghulam Qadiani afterwards through my own research, that's how I came to know that who he was. But when I was for those years in the seminary, I did not learn that. Even to the missionaries, they give selective quotation. And he said that any of the missionary during that study in the seminary, if he is questioning something, he is being confrontational, he will be out of the class. They can't tolerate that. So this is who they are. So no, the answer is no. And look, we have a test case.
So therefore, somebody like that, so one of these young missionaries or imams, even if they were imams for 10 years, they wouldn't be able to debate you if they haven't read the written works about him. You'd be able to.
I would say yes. And the thing is this, Declan, look, somebody might say, oh, look, they are sitting in their room and boasting and all of that. We're not boasting, okay? Again, we give them invitation. Let's have a live Q&A. You are more than welcome to ask us whatever you want to ask. And then let us ask you as well the basic things from Mirza's writings. So people can see if you know him or not.
No, I absolutely agree. Yep.
That's how you can decide.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Just by saying we are lying.
It's no good just it's no good doing choosing a topic
exactly
and for it to be pre-recorded and so on. It has to be live. It has to be spontaneous.
Yes. And
ask anything.
And I would say that, for example, I'm not sure, whatever. If they trust you, for example, I would ask you that, okay, you sit between us, invite them, invite us. Let's have a live discussion.
Oh, I've tried that. I've tried that for negotiations were going on for about 6 months, and
it's not going anywhere.
Dither and delay, and you give up in the end.
Yes,
you give up in the end.
They actually engaged with me from this.
I tried to engage with them in the first instance.
Yeah,
I tried to do it, and that's why I've moved on to. You have to move on after a certain time. Absolutely. Because you know.
And look, we can even offer for a dialogue, for a discussion, like a podcast setting where you can sit as a neutral,
as a
moderator. Okay, you're a Catholic, you're not Muslim. Okay, they are Ahmadis, we are Muslims. So maybe you can propose to them that why don't you come and sit with me, and I will serve as the middle ground, or let's say the moderator between the two parties, so that we can have a moderated discussion. If they are not giving an answer to our question, you can probe them, and if we are not being honest and straight about our questions, you can probe us.
I can do that, Adnan, but the thing is they'll come back with such a long list of conditions, and it just goes on.
And we have no conditions.
Yeah, we have no conditions.
We have no conditions.
And then the list of questions has to be verified, and from what I know about them is everything goes through this huge chain of command. Well, we might be even what you're proposing, even if this did go ahead, we're talking about this time next year.
Declan, are we paying you?
Are you coming back next year?
Are we paying you to say this?
No, you're not.
Because they're the kind of people
for next year, the next trip.
Yeah, because you're saying these things, Declan, on record. You're saying these things on record. They are the kind of people.
Nobody's paying me for this. I wish there were.
They said this to us. So you're being paid to do this. We wish we were being paid.
No.
We are struggling to make ends meet. We have expenses.
I'm doing this because I'm really, really interested.
Yes,
I'm really interested in it.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't be doing it if I wasn't interested.
So I just wanted to
but
get that out of the way.
I'm also interested in finding out the truth.
Yes.
Because any Catholic or any Christian that I tell them about Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, they haven't got a clue who he is.
Yes.
He's supposed to be our promised Messiah.
You need to write another book. You'll have to write another book.
I've thought about it, but I cannot write it until I've read it.
Yes.
I want to read every single word he wrote, whether it's the revised edition or whatever edition.
You'll be waiting for a long time.
I would say in that case, I would say that you should push to them for my invitation.
Well, if they ever invite me back again to talk to Asif or someone else, I will definitely ask that. I will definitely push for you. I've got a good question for you. So imagine now, the Caliph, the present Caliph, if you were invited to his office, if you were invited, it'd be like going to see the Pope, a special audience with His Holiness, and they're relatively short audiences. I think if you go to the Pope, let's say in Rome, he'll give you 20 minutes of his time. He's very busy. So imagine if you were going to the Caliph, he was going to give you 20 minutes, undivided attention, and you were invited to ask him just 2 questions, Adnan. Just 2 questions in 20 minutes. 10 minutes per question. What 2 questions would you ask him?
The first question I would ask him basically is, how can you believe in an individual as a prophet of God who not only praised the British colonial rule in India, but also expressed his heartfelt desire to serve that rule? So it didn't stop at praise. He expressed a desire to serve the British rule in India.
So
And what's the problem with that?
So you'd be asking him about his great grandfather here.
Exactly. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani, the founder of the movement, of the religion, the founder of the religion, who wrote a lavish tribute to Queen Victoria, which is not a problem. I've already acknowledged that Queen Victoria as a person was a very noble person. She had noble intentions. She was a good woman, but she had no idea what her administrators, colonial administrators, were doing around the world. Every time she got the news of their oppression and their racism and their tyranny, she did her best to stop it, right? So the problem is not with Queen Victoria. The problem is with the British colonial rule that Mirza was communicating with. How can you believe in such a man who could not see the oppression, the racism, the tyranny, and the destruction caused by this rule? Now, especially, Declan, especially when he himself was active as a reviver, as the promised Messiah, or even a prophet of God. I'm saying in inverted commas, right? All of this. He was active from 1880 to 1908 until he died, let's say. These are his active years, about 28 odd or 30 years, let's say, give and take, right? It was in this period when the greatest number of people died in India under the British colonial rule. There are two historians who have put together research, okay, and they claimed 100 million people died between 1880 and 1920 due to the British colonial policies in India. In India alone, we're not talking about Africa, we're not talking about Australasia, we're not talking about Canada, what was happening to the Native Americans, because all of this is British territory, okay, at that time, British colonial territory. We cannot blame the current British government and the British people for that today, because they have nothing to do with those crimes. But those people at that time, in the 18th century and the 19th century, okay, and the early 20th century, these crimes were committed, especially when Mirza was active as a prophet or as a reviver of this religion. Was he made blind by God? And every single example we have a prophet of a prophet in history. Prophets stood up to oppression. They stood up to the tyrants.
Yeah.
For example, Moses against Pharaoh, Abraham against Nimrod,
Even Jesus.
Jesus against the Romans and his temple authorities.
Yes.
Right? And this is why he was allegedly crucified.
Yeah.
Okay? Because he stood up to oppression.
Yeah.
He challenged the oppression of time. And amazingly,
So why didn't Mirza Ghulam Ahmad do that?
why didn't Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani stand up to the greatest oppressive power in the history of humanity that committed some of the greatest crimes, more than British?
What do you think could be the possible reason that he didn't?
Because he himself was, first of all, he wasn't even a decent man, let alone a prophet of God. He wanted privileges, he wanted support, he wanted the good wishes of.
Did he get all that?
Not in his lifetime, I don't think so. But his son, Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud, definitely had the support of the colonial establishment. He even sent men to fight the Ottomans during the First World War from India. Qadiani men were sent from India to fight in the British in the First World War, during the First World War, on the front in Iraq against the Ottomans. Okay, and amazingly, Mirza had written, jihad, physical struggle, fighting is not my religion. But for some reason, for the British Empire, for the British colonial rule, it was okay to fight for them. For the cause of Islam, you could not fight the British in India, because many people, they wanted to fight the British colonial rule in India, okay, because it was oppressive, outrightly racist, tyrannical, genocidal. And by the way, Declan, I'm not making this up. This is not Adnan Rashid speaking. This is academics today who are writing works on the British colonial rule who are saying this. There is a very excellent book I invite you to read by Shashi Tharoor, an Indian politician as well as an author. His name is Shashi Tharoor and he's a Congress party member. he wrote a book titled Inglorious Empire. Inglorious Empire. Okay, like we have this movie, Inglorious Bastards, right, about the Nazis. I mean, sorry about the title, but because they're talking about the Nazis. Just like that, he wrote a book titled Inglorious Empire, and in this book he puts down all the evidence of the oppression and the tyranny of the British Empire. I would ask Mirza Masroor, coming back to the question you asked, why would you believe in a person like this to be a prophet of God? This person is not even a decent man, let alone a reviver, the promised Messiah, or a prophet of God. That's the first question.
I was going to say, what's your second question?
The second question would be, how can you believe in this man to be a prophet of God when his writings are riddled with contradictions, irreconcilable contradictions? These contradictions cannot be reconciled. It is impossible to reconcile some of those contradictions that we can find in his writings. His writings are riddled. When I say riddled,
we're talking about hundreds of contradictions here.
We're talking about thousands. In his 23 odd volumes, Ruhani Khazain, each and every single volume, okay, has content that contradicts with another volume. Directly. Sometimes mathematically. There are mathematical contradictions. Okay. These contradictions cannot be from someone who's inspired by God. This is impossible. It is absolutely impossible.
Well, we'll have to imagine what sort of answers you would get.
Yes, I can only imagine.
Okay. Adnan had his 20 minutes with the Caliph. Next in comes Muhammad. What questions would you ask him? 2 questions, 20 minutes.
You know, first of all, I would not be excited at all.
You wouldn't?
No.
Okay.
The reason is because I know the knowledge of the Caliph, not about Quran and Sunnah, about Mirza Ghulam Qadiani's own writings.
Well, he must have read the originals.
Okay, let me tell you this thing. If I say that he knows 5% of Mirza's work, that will be exaggeration.
Really?
Yes.
And again, this is not an exaggeration. What he said is not an exaggeration.
I thought he...
really?
We can give you evidence.
The thing is, Declan, now there are 2 ways.
But would he not be interested? I mean, if my great-grandfather was a writer, I would devour every word.
I met one of his frontmen. I met personally one of his frontmen who accepted Islam with us. Again, his identity is secret because he doesn't want to reveal his identity. Okay, he said he had private, personal meetings with Mirza Masroor, and he believes that Mirza Masroor does not believe in this religion,
or that Mirza was a prophet,
or that Mirza was a prophet. This is coming from the mouth of a person who has had private interactions with Mirza Masroor.
Now again, this is the reason I would not be excited. So, if you still want me to give it a try, I can try. Okay.
We can give you examples. He made public statements that contradict Mirza Ghulam Qadiani directly.
Okay, example now, because just to put things in perspective, there's a discussion happening between Mirza Masroor and the congregation in front of him, and he is surrounded by the Murabbis and the senior people as well. And the question in discussion is about the children which were born between Joseph the carpenter and Maryam or Mary after the birth of Jesus. Now Mirza Ghulam Qadiani has clearly written, he said that after this birth of Jesus, they had intercourse, and these were the children born of the other intercourse. And now,
in spite of the fact that the marriage was illegitimate, illegitimate according to the law of Moses.
Yeah, there was another caveat, obviously.
We discussed this last.
Now the thing is, I was surprised. Number one, Mirza Masroor did not know that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani has written about this marriage, while Mirza has written extensively on this one. Number one.
So the son didn't read the father's writing.
Exactly. Now the second thing is,
no, he's not only the son. He's not only a great grandson.
The Khalifa.
He is the Caliph. He is supposed to be the face of the religion.
No, of course. Yeah,
and he doesn't know basic things like this,
on which Mirza was writing extensively. A second interesting thing is, Declan, in that gathering, obviously, just imagine the missionaries or the knowledgeable people around Mirza Masroor to cover up if he makes a mistake should be very highly qualified, right? None of them knew this.
So this is
Very embarrassing, isn't it?
Why would I be excited if I'm given an opportunity to sit and ask him a question?
absolutely. And what questions,
I
what
thought-
answers are we
I
expecting?
thought this was going to be a really good question. I thought, oh yeah, you jump at the
But I-
chance
I
and
would
meet them,
take-
and that's.
But guess what? Guess what? You know, despite
Yeah.
my disappointment or frustration I already have, I would ask him not two, one question.
Okay.
That Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is supposedly the awaited one for the entire humanity.
Yes, 7 billion of us.
Yes, be
Currently.
be it Hindu,
Yes.
be it a Jew,
And he came to save us.
yes,
Yes.
and be it a Christian or a Muslim.
Buddhists,
Now
everyone, yeah.
our question is, we want to see the evidence, Mr. Caliph. Any letter you have written to Modi.
We see
Okay.
that. We need to see everything.
For example, okay.
Yeah.
When was the last time or the first time or ever you wrote to Modi that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was second coming of Krishna? If you don't believe in him, you will burn in hell. I mean, if
Krishna is the Hindu deity.
now
one of the-
now
one
the,
of the-
now the problem here is, if they
Mirza did claim that,
yeah,
by the way.
yeah,
He claimed to be.
He claimed to be
the
Krishna.
second coming
The avatar of
yeah,
Krishna.
yeah,
He used the word avatar.
yes, avatar.
And he also claimed to
Yeah.
be the soul of Muhammad.
Yeah, just to complete.
Not the soul. I mean, this is a he actually
Embodiment.
came to be the embodiment, and his son claimed that he was very Muhammad.
Yeah. Now, just to complete my question,
himself
Mr.
was
Caliph,
Muhammad.
you know, so
Gets very confusing, Adnan.
Yes,
Yeah.
more than confusing.
So the
you
quest- so
you
the
need
que-
more than one brain to
Yeah.
develop all
Yeah.
this.
so the question is, if you believe, Mr. Caliph, that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was the savior for Hindus and he was the reincarnation of Krishna,
Right.
is it not your responsibility, divine responsibility, to write to Modi to tell his people that believe in Mirza as Krishna or you will be doomed to hell? Why not doing that?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Secondly, I would ask him, at the end of the day, Mirza is a promised Messiah, okay, and awaited Messiah for the Jews as well. I want to see that letter which Caliph has written or is thinking to write to Netanyahu or the Jewish rabbis to tell them Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was the Messiah you are waiting for. You don't need anything to slaughter anything. Mirza has already come. Believe in him. Why they are not doing that? And lastly, the point is, why Mirza Ghulam Qadiani's Caliph Mirza Masroor is not writing to the Pope,
I was going to. I was going to say that.
to the
that's a point
Pope,
to me, absolutely.
to the Pope, that Mirza was the second coming of your Isa, Jesus Christ, and if you don't believe in that, you will burn in hell.
Actually, I have to give it to Imtiaz, brother Imtiaz, that this question never crossed my mind. It's a very important
It
question.
is, yeah. You have to write
No,
it
this-
It is. I mean, if you really truly believe that your
Your
prophet,
man is all of that.
yeah, if your prophet is universally
Savior.
is a universal is
Well,
a
he needs to
universal
have a
savior.
meeting with the Archbishop of
Mirza
Canterbury as well.
Mirza
for
Ghulam
the
Qadiani, Mirza
Anglicans.
Ghulam Qadiani literally said, he said, I am the last savior of humanity.
No.
Now the problem is here. Now there are two things. Okay, if they are if they are not writing these letters to Modi, to Netanyahu, and Rabbi, and to Pope, it shows us one thing: they do not believe in Mirza's writings.
Yeah,
They don't have the confidence.
And the thing is, he's dead 116 years now, as I
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
They've had a long time. You know, it's not as if he recently passed away.
Exactly. And second thing is, now how come that they are telling their number, etc. We want to see the Jewish converts to Ahmadiyya.
Well,
Produce one.
Absolutely.
I
Look,
think you might have to wait a little on that one.
yeah. And if you look at the life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sent letters to the Persian emperor.
Yes.
He sent letters to the Byzantine emperor.
Emperor, yeah.
He sent letters to the patriarch of Egypt,
Yeah.
Patriarch Cyrus,
Yeah.
who received a letter from Prophet Muhammad inviting them to Islam. Heraclius, the Roman emperor, he received a letter from the Prophet Muhammad inviting him to Islam. And he warned him that if you do not accept Islam, the sin of your people will be on your back.
Yes.
It will be on your shoulders for rejecting Islam, because they will die
Yeah.
as disbelievers.
Yeah. Because Declan, look, we can disagree with each other, but as a principle, obviously you believe as a Christian, I would say, that Jesus Christ is the Savior. If someone does not believe in him in this position, he is going to hell. Okay, but the problem is, if Mirza was that Savior as well, why aren't they telling to the Pope and to all of the rest of the humanity? Why they hiding? All they are doing is they are just swearing at Adnan and Imtiaz, or rest of our Muslim scholars.
Well, who do they call true believers? Because when I wrote the Lahori book, you know, the Lahoris told me, you know, the breakup between the two communities after the death of the first caliph, and when Maulana Muhammad Ali met with the second caliph, and when they had a disagreement, the second caliph, correct me if I'm wrong here, he said to Maulana Ali that if people didn't accept his father as the promised Messiah, a prophet and a promised Messiah, that they weren't Muslims.
That's correct. That's correct. And
even, and he put this little caveat to it, even if they have never heard of my father.
Definitely, that's correct. And guess what, Declan? My thesis, which will be published next year by March, which is on this very topic, excommunication of Ahmadiyya on rest of the Muslim Ummah, the Muslim nation in its entirety. Now, just look at the terms they use. If they are true Islam, then by necessity the rest of the Muslims are on false Islam, because something in comparison to truth has to be falsehood.
So there's nearly 2 billion mainstream Muslims in the world.
On falsehood. Okay, number one. Number two, if with regard to this conversation between the second caliph and Maulana Muhammad Ali Lahori, they actually they have an evolution of their stance on excommunication. In the beginning, they were very open. When Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud was saying all of that, he was writing books on this very topic and telling everybody that if you don't believe in my father as a prophet, you are a disbeliever, end of story. But then from 1953 onwards, that's a key year. Now, why is beyond the scope of discussion, it's a lengthy topic. From 1953 onwards, they started to change their stance.
Which caliph was in office in 1953?
It would be the Mirza Nasir.
Okay.
Yeah, Mirza Nasir.
Right.
Third caliph.
Oh.
Now, the thing is, currently, now this is something they are not telling their own audience or their own community members. The current stance of Qadiani Ahmadis, which means that the Ahmadis who are under the Caliph Masroor. So their today's stance is the stance of Lahori Jamaat. I mean, back in the days, they used to refute this stance. They used to write papers, and now quietly they have adopted their stance. In which sense? They would say that as long as someone says I'm a Muslim, we will not excommunicate him. But how come Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud was saying all of that and writing books on all of that, and Mirza Bashir Ahmad M.A., he wrote a famous booklet. It's called Kalimatul Fasl, which deals with this very topic, that if you don't believe in his father as a prophet of God, you are disbeliever in the same sense as you do not believe in Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now just imagine, if somebody says that I don't believe in Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this person is an outright disbeliever. And Mirza's son was saying that if you reject my father, his father, i.e., you are a disbeliever in the same sense. And guess what? Now they are hiding all of that. So my thesis is...
So what's the current stance? Current Jamaat, who do they think the true believers are?
Their current fake...
Do they believe that you're true believers?
I tell you, their current...
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
100% not.
No.
Oh, Adnan.
You know, their current fake public narrative is that they are the true Muslims, and us people are, they don't call it false Muslims, we are the Muslims who are sinner because they rejected
what is the opposite of true?
I told you falsehood.
False. For untrue?
Yeah. False.
Yeah.
Untrue is one polite way of putting
Yes.
it.
It's like a falsehood.
But it means false.
Yeah.
True, false, right? False is false, true is true, right? So we are upon false Islam. They are upon true Islam. And how do we know they're claiming this? Their YouTube channel is called this.
True Islam UK.
True Islam UK.
Absolutely.
They always claim that we are upon true Islam. So they are saying in a very cunning way that we are the only true believers.
Yeah.
The rest of the world is basically filled with disbelievers. So there are only...
So would they use that word?
Yes.
Would they use the K word?
The kafir.
Yeah.
The word kafir.
Yeah.
Mirza used it.
Yeah.
His son used it.
And his son used it.
Both of his sons use
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
They,
yeah.
They,
Do
have,
they use it? The current community?
No,
No,
they will
no.
not call you a kafir outrightly.
there are two things now, actually. There are two things now. If some...
Although,
Yeah.
sorry for interruption,
Yeah.
Imtiaz bhai, they have said it recently, the missionaries said it live,
Yes.
that yes, we believe you to be
A kafir.
disbelievers, kuffar.
Kafir.
Not only you, the Muslims, but also the Lahoris and the other splinter groups of the Qadiani Jamaat. All the other splinter groups are also disbelievers, kafirs, so are you. They
And
said it, the
not-
missionaries said it.
Not
to us.
only this, by the way, they said that even the Lahoris, despite believing in Mirza as a promised Messiah and a reviver, they are kuffar, i.e. disbelievers, and they will burn in hell. Now the question is, it means that you are telling for last 100 years to the people that believe in Mirza, you will be saved. But the Lahoris believed in, okay, forget about Lahoris. Jamba group is one of their own offshoot of Ahmadiyya. It's called Jamba. Abdul Ghaffar Jamba is the name of the founder of this cult. Now he says Mirza was a prophet, he was promised Messiah, he was the Mahdi and reviver. Now our question is, Mirza was saying that believe in me, you will be saved. Now Abdul Ghaffar Jamba and his group, they believe in all of the rest of the Islam, and they believe in Mirza as a prophet, as a savior and everything. You are still saying they are disbelievers, they will burn in hell. The question is, then what is that condition which one has to fulfill in order to be Muslim?
Whew. It's pretty hard criteria by the sounds of things.
Yep. And this is, what I'm saying is that they never tell their complete narrative.
You basically, I have the answer. The answer is you must take a pledge of allegiance with Mirza Masroor, the current caliph, to be a Muslim in their eyes.
And if you haven't taken that pledge,
no,
that
you're
oath,
not.
Exactly.
you're out.
If you say that I do not accept him as the caliph, you're outside.
Yeah.
You're out.
Yeah.
You're not Muslim.
Now it means, if obviously I knew this answer, but the thing is, the moment they will spell it out, they are in trouble. You know why? Because they have added that believe in Mirza Masroor or the caliph a condition to be a believer. Where's the evidence? Even Mirza did not say this. Even Mirza himself did not say this, that in the future, if you don't believe in my caliphs, you'll be a disbeliever. So if you have this criteria, where's the evidence?
Well, it's made up as they go along, isn't it?
Yes.
And
But the interesting thing is that if there's about 1 million of them in the world,
Yeah.
so there can't be any other believers outside
course.
of that.
By
That's
necessity.
the criteria.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And only those believers
Yeah.
within true Islam will go to heaven.
That's right.
Yes.
And the rest of us are completely doomed.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
There's going to be a lot of space up there, isn't there?
Yes. Absolutely.
it's gonna be empty.
By their standards, yes. Absolutely.
They're going to have the place all to
yeah.
themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And they have no legs to stand on when they claim this, because they have utterly failed to save humanity by this virtue. Okay, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani was an utter failure. For 100 years, his Jamaat has absolutely failed to save humanity. Millions of people have gone to hellfire. Hundreds of thousands. Okay, they haven't even received his message. We can say about mainstream Islam that everyone in the world knows about it. The message has reached, right? The case has been established. But with this cult, they have utterly failed to do the job, despite the fact that they have the money to do so. They have newspapers, they have TV stations, they have everything, right? Yeah, but they have actually failed in their job to take the message to humanity. And by the looks of it, it seems to me that they are already on the decline, and they will be. Our prediction is within the next 5 years, the cult will be.
Really? That's short?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
And then this is not because we are being over ambitious. We believe the rate things are going now, and the way they're avoiding our questions and they're running away from us.
And this is the time. This
Yeah.
is the time to
Yeah.
speak, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh yes.
Yes.
This is not
Well,
the time to shut down.
This is
discussion.
why you have your seminaries. This is why you train your missionaries. You pay them lavish. You pay them handsome salaries.
Yeah.
They get a house from the Jamaat. They get free medical. They get the fees for the children, and they get a status in the Jamaat of being someone very, respected.
Yeah.
So why are you feeding these people if they're not able to defend your faith?
Yeah.
Right? And they're getting paid for it. They are on money. The Jamaat pays them. Myself and brother Imtiaz, we're not getting any money for this work. We're not getting for the last 1 year. We are only saying this so that people understand and know that we're doing this out of our love and compassion and a feeling of sympathy for the common Ahmadis. We're not doing this to hate them or to promote hatred against them. No, we are doing this so that the common Muslims out there understand that the Ahmadis are they are victims.
Yeah.
Because what I said in the book, I said, I in the conclusions, the recommendations, I said dialogue. Dialogue is so important.
Absolutely.
And I also said translation. These arguments, it was almost futile. I just couldn't get my head around it. Between Lahoris and the Qadianis, arguing over various words. Is he a prophet? Isn't he a prophet? Yes, he is a prophet. No, he's not a prophet. And it all boiled down to translations of a few words. And I thought, well, in this day and age, you must get highly skilled translators that would be able to go through
the kind of dialogue. The kind of dialogue, Declan, they want is where you ask questions and let them go on a monologue for 20-30 minutes to answer that question, and then you cannot counter.
You cannot confront them.
You cannot counter their answer. You cannot challenge them with Mirza's contradiction.
Yeah.
The moment you start challenging them with contradictions and absurdities and outright lies, they tell you you're a liar. You are against the Jamaat. You are promoting hatred against us. You are an extremist. They will go as far. They will go as far as to say you are an extremist. They have called people extremists for calling them Qadiani. When you call them Qadiani and not Ahmadi, okay, they feel it is an insult against them, even though their own prophet Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani on the title of Rouhani Khazain, the compendium, the collection, every volume, when you pick it up, when you pull it out, like I pull out this book, and it has the name of the author, let's say here, it says Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani. So if that's an insult, why are you writing his name like this on your books, right? But they have actually reported people to the authorities. They have sent police to people's homes. They have tried to shut down charitable organizations. They have tried to shut down people by intimidating them by using the authorities. Okay, for what? Calling them a cult or calling them a Qadiani, right? And cult, I can understand they take it as an insult. I can understand why they take the word cult as an insult. I can understand that. But Qadiani is a geographical reference to you guys. Okay, Lahoris are Lahoris because they're from Lahore, right? Qadianis are Qadianis because they are from Qadian.
And Adnan bhai, in our Muslim culture, people use, for example, with proud, they say that I am Makki.
Yeah.
Prophet Muhammad's birthplace, Mecca. They would say, I'm a Madani, the place of his migration when he went to Medina.
Or I'm Lahori, I am...
So there's no problem in that. So if Qadian is a blessed place and somebody is giving this as a reference to you...
No,
you'd be privileged to have it in your name,
absolutely. You should be happy that people are calling you Qadiani, right? But they take it as an insult. We have so many scholars in the history of Islam who are known by the only name as a reference to their location. Imam Bayhaqi from Bayhaq, Imam al-Nawawi from Nawawa, okay? Imam, for example, the list goes on, Asqalani, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani from Ascalon in Palestine, right? Qurtubi from Cordoba, from Spain, Qadiani from Qadian. What's the problem? But they take it as an insult. So I think we should come towards the conclusion.
Yes, because, two very quick questions.
Yes.
Two very, very quick questions, and then I'll wrap it up. Obviously, going back to the academic here who's recently read his works, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's, you read the books. What would you say his contribution to Islamic civilization is? If you were to just narrow that down to 1 or 2 points, what would you say his contribution?
Actually, if we look at it from the perspective of him being a writer an author. So for example, somebody would write, let's suppose, in the field of Quranic exegesis. He did not produce any commentary on the Quran. He only actually reinterpreted selective verses to prove his case. That's not the work. That's self-interest. Secondly, second genre of Islamic literature is called to explain prophetic hadith, the Sunnah, right? He did not produce any such explanation of the Sunnah. Yes, he did misinterpret it, only those handful of ahadith which he wanted to use for his purpose. Let's move on. The third area is called Islamic jurisprudence, Islamic law, the practical things. He did not produce any work. The fourth area is, for example, the financial aspect. Adnan Bhai will agree with me that today for the practicing Muslims, especially living in the West, one of the biggest challenges to have an option to buy the house, there's no interest involved.
Yes.
That's the biggest challenge Muslims are facing. The practicing one, practicing one cannot go to a traditional bank, for example, and some of them, they don't want to use even the Islamic option as well. They put a question mark on them. Now, what was the solution given by Mirza on this one? So what I'm trying to say is, literally, without being biased in any way, shape or form, be it solving a global problem of the Muslim Ummah, be it being a writer on the Islamic subjects, being, for example, adding something to Islamic as a civilization, there's nothing. So much so that whatever the work he produced has no literary beauty. It's a painstaking exercise even to read that. So even for example, somebody might say, oh, he's anti-Ahmadi, saying all of that. Okay, just imagine if Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was not born, hypothetically speaking, what have you lost as a Muslim civilization?
It's a good question.
Nothing.
What do you think, Adnan, on that point?
On the point that
what Mirza added to
the Islamic civilization.
Yeah.
What did he bring?
Had it not been the birth of Mirza, what would you?
I think what
did he bring to Islam?
Yeah.
Only harm, only confusion.
Did he bring any good?
I don't think so. I don't think he brought any good to.
Did you see any good?
No.
Let me tell you, Declan, that the one thing they are just chanting day in, day out. They said that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani defended Islam in the British India. That's the one thing they want to just be proud about. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani's son, Mirza Bashir Ahmad M.A., he has written a biography of his dad, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. It's called Siratul Mahdi, Biography of the Mahdi. In this one, he says that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani has done 5 debates in his entire career. 2 with Muslims, which I can discuss, but it's a different topic.
Yeah.
1 with a Christian.
Yeah.
And one or two with a Hindu, but with a Christian just one, Abdullah Atham.
And now, that was written,
and that's documented by Mirza himself.
You mentioned that,
yeah. Now the point is, even this one claim that Mirza was defending Islam. Number one, he lost the debate. What is the proof? The people who invited Mirza Ghulam Qadiani to debate on their behalf, they left Islam and became Christians. So then, what was the result of the debate then? It's one point. Second point is, Declan, that they said that Mirza was defending Islam because at that time Hindus and Christians, they were saying all sort of bad things about our religion. Guess what? We have on record the famous Lekram. Lekram is a famous figure, okay, one of the opponent of Mirza from the Hindu community. Lekram said on record, he said that Mirza Ghulam Qadiani is the reason for me to lift my pen against Islam. He said, had he not ridiculed and mocked our religion, I would not have said anything about Islam. So it's not that Mirza was defending Islam, Mirza was provoking the people to write against Islam.
Actually, a lot of scholars of Islam at the time claimed that Mirza was an agent provocateur. He was trying to provoke tension in India, possibly serving the colonial project, because the colonial rule in India was very brutal.
Would he have been paid for that?
We don't know. Possibly. We have documents. We have writings in his own. He is confessing to have received favors from the British government in India, in particular. Okay, he is asking for those favors categorically. He's reaching out to the colonial administrators, asking them for favors. This is documented. He's even invoking the services of his father and himself for the British colonial rule so that he can get those favors. He even mentions specifically that his father, during the Indian Mutiny in 1857, sent 50 cavaliers to support the colonial rule against his own countrymen. So his father was a traitor, and Mirza Ghulam al-Qadiani was also a traitor for praising his father as some sort of hero. Hero for the colonial rule, not for the Indian people. Because the Indian Mutiny in 1857 was a combined endeavor of Muslims and Hindus together. They came together and they fought against the British colonial rule because it was so oppressive, so bigoted, so unjust that they had to get rid of it, right? And the Qadianis, on the other hand, claim no, the British had brought peace to India. They had brought stability to India. They had brought economic prosperity to India. But this is all a lie. Because during the Mughal period, in the early 18th century, before the British came on the scene, in 1703, let's say, when the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb Alamgir died, the GDP of India was 23% of the global economic figure. Okay, 23% of global wealth was in India. When the British left in 1947, it was 4%.
Allah.
Okay, so India was bled dry systematically. The details are found in Shashi Tharoor's book, Inglorious Empire. He gives you systematic details documenting how the colonial rule in India impacted the economy and the people. Okay, how can a prophet of God ask for favors from such an entity? How can a prophet of God offer to spy for them? He published a form documenting the details of the people who are fostering ill feelings towards the colonial rule. He even called people who wanted to struggle against the colonial rule haramis. He called them bastards. These are bastards. And how do they respond when we bring this stuff out to them? Oh, your so-and-so scholar in India also said this. We say to them, we can throw this scholar on the wall. If any scholar in India praised the British colonial rule, there could be two reasons. Either he's bribed or he's in fear, which are both are human characteristics.
Yeah, but of course.
Greed and fear. It's either greed or fear.
But they can be quickly dismissed.
Yeah.
Here we're talking about
Exactly.
the alleged promised Messiah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and when we have statistics,
It's hardly,
No comparison.
a level pegging
and
field,
when
is it?
Declan, when we have undisputed statistics, all academics are unanimous on those statistics that this was the outcome of the colonial rule in British India, right? When no one is disputing those statistics, what game are you playing?
And
why do you even try to bring this scholar and this person and that person also praise the British colonial rule? How does that justify the crimes of the British colonial rule? How does that justify a prophet of God working with such an entity?
And fighting with them.
Fighting with them, supporting them,
Because
giving them support,
information.
writing theological works to support them.
And Mirza Ghulam Qadiani said to the Queen Victoria on record, he said that my forefathers, they have shed their blood for your empire, and if the time comes, I will not leave any stone unturned either. Now, why are you pledging this level of loyalty to that colonizers? Why? Instead of giving an answer, oh, your scholar said the same thing. One. Secondly, the thing is that, as you said, Mirza Ghulam Qadiani was a Muslim second coming of Jesus. He should be strengthening the case of Jesus. Guess what? Mirza Ghulam Qadiani has written extensively to prove. He said that the Jewish rejection of Jesus is justified.
And Jesus was a failure.
Yes.
Jesus was a trickster.
Yeah.
He used mesmerism.
His prophecies failed.
His prophecies failed. He failed in his mission.
Yeah.
He failed in his mission, and other insults, as we discussed in the last week. I think we should come to closing.
I just want to thank you both very much. Obviously, you are going to continue with these debates.
Yes.
So there's no end in sight.
Mm-hmm.
You're on a roll here. But what, I suppose, in fairness to them, what do you expect of them moving forward? As I said, this isn't a time to shut down. This isn't a time to not respond or to do response videos when a discussion takes place. That's kind of cowardly. You need people here at the table, don't you? You need live debate, spontaneous.
Yeah.
Not planning something for 6 months in advance.
Yeah.
And we would like to continue the debate
With them.
with them. With dial, our doors are open.
Yeah.
We have nothing but compassion. We have nothing but mercy and sympathy for the entire Jamaat. I mean, even the missionaries. We don't wish them bad. We wish them well. We if anything, we have sympathy for them.
Even the Khalifa as well.
Even the Caliph, we don't want him to go to hellfire. We don't want him to die upon this belief and burn eternally in hellfire or end up in a situation like that. So we have nothing but good wishes and good desires for them. For that reason, in that light, we want to continue with the dialogue. They have no reason to avoid us. They have no reason to ignore us. We're not abusing them. We're not spreading hate against them. We have categorically stated that anyone trying to use physical force against them or trying to attack them physically in Pakistan or in other places, anywhere in the world, we do not condone that. We do not condone that. We do not promote that. In fact, we believe it's bad, it's evil to do that. Yes. If anything, will convince the Ahmadi Jamaat and the people.
Dialogue and education.
Absolutely, education and dialogue. Absolutely, this is our way forward.
Final word from our visitor.
Actually, obviously everything Adnan Rashid bhai said as his last word, I endorse all of that. That's number one. Number two is, they are using one thing as an excuse. They say that Adnan Rashid and Imtiaz, they have disrespected our noble figure, i.e. Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. Now, instead of me saying, oh, prove to me, show me where, without even asking Adnan Rashid, I would say on camera, we unconditionally apologize if there was anything we said ever that hurt your feelings. Let's have a new start. Let's have a new start in which all we have is civilized, for properly, moderated discussions in which you bring your case in an academic way, and we present our case and let the both communities see where's the evidence, and then let them decide.
We both have theological positions on Mirza Ghulam Qadiani. Yeah. To the Ahmadi Jamaat, he is the promised Messiah. Yeah. Peace be upon him. That's how they pay their respects to him. Yes. Yeah. We have our theological position that he was Antichrist, and he was a liar. Yeah. We are willing to put aside our theological baggage and have a neutral position and call him by his name.
Yes.
In a dialogue, we will not use those terms that hurt your feelings. Yeah. We are willing to do that.
Which is our belief, by the way.
We believe that he is those things, just as they believe that he was a prophet of God, right? We cannot force them to change that belief. Likewise, they cannot force us to change our theological position on him. What we can do to promote the dialogue, to continue with the dialogue, we can only use his name without using any derogatory terms as they see it, so that we can have the dialogue, the debate.
Yes.
We're not hurting their feelings. Yeah. We're calling him by his name, which is Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani.
But they have to be open, spontaneous debates.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Not prepared 6 months in advance and just one topic.
Can I ask you, Declan, before we end, are you willing to arbitrate or mediate or even moderate such discussions if you are invited to do so?
Yes. I tried that in the past. Absolutely.
So this is an open invitation to the Qadiani Jamaat. We have a neutral person here who doesn't have a horse in the race, okay, as they say, right? He can simply sit there and arbitrate. And he has written a book on your movement. He is someone who has credentials, who has researched your religion, okay, and he has written a book on voices in modern Islam, or voices of modern Islam. So he is someone who is aware of our literature, aware of our civilization and our religion.
I'm very interested in I'm very interested in all of this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it if I wasn't.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You've given so much of your time. We thank you for coming all the way.
And you know, Nanbay, the reason, Declan, I said that, look, if you want an apology, we'll give it to you. Why? Because for us, it's not our egos which are important.
No, but I've never seen you rude or disrespectful in any of those live streams.
We have used these theological terms to describe him, but we've never
sworn. They are taken from his works.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And then the thing is, you know, Declan, instead of us prove to me where I said this, let's close that door. Let's move on, start a new era in which we are only engaging as a true academic
dialogue.
Side,
but even if they don't, let's say they don't want to continue, and let's say the shutters really come down, you're going to continue anyway.
We're not stopping.
You're not stopping.
We're not stopping, and we have hundreds of thousands of people listening to us.
Yeah, and then
we don't have any lack of. They claimed initially that we are doing this for money or for social media clout.
Yes.
But this is a lie, because we had clout before we engaged with them. We had hundreds of thousands of people watching our videos before we engaged with them, so they are not bringing any special clout to us, right? We're not doing this for clout.
And even for, you know, social media clout and views and likes and so forth. Well, that doesn't put money in your pocket.
No, it doesn't.
It might elevate your ego, but
and
there's a lot of hard work, isn't it? Just for a few views or likes, isn't it?
You know, Declan, as you said, it's a lot of hard work. I would say that the places Adnan Bhai and myself are living, we can do a lot easier jobs to earn money than this research.
Yes.
Okay, there are many easy options for us to earn money. This is not easy option. Okay. Secondly, you know, Declan, the point is, as you said, that what if they are still not interested despite all of this invitation and being all of this fairness? I would say then it necessitates two things. The common Ahmadis should then really think that why is it that despite all of those fair invitations, why is their Jamaat not interested in the dialogue? Then when they are telling to their own people, we want dialogue, they are not talking, it means they are lying. Number one. And number two, we're not going to stop.
Yeah.
And this is the golden opportunity to put their religion out to the world. We have hundreds of thousands of people watching. We have the following. They are watching. This is your chance. The audience, I mean, I've shown you evidence. 130,000 people are watching a video on a channel which has 7,000 subscribers. So we are giving you crowd on your channels. Why would you avoid us?
Mohammed.
Thank you very much, Declan. Pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, Declan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.